Welcome back to Mighty Habits, where we try to break down, well, big ideas into those smaller bits you can actually use. I'm Steven, and I'll be kind of guiding us through today's deep dive.
And I'm Mary, here to help connect the dots and see where these insights can lead us.
Today we are going to tackle a topic that I think resonates with just about everybody. Uh, how to keep your head above water when it comes to self-care and those never-ending household tasks.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. You feel that pang of guilt, maybe when the laundry pile looks like Mount Everest, or the idea of a relaxing bubble bath feels like a distant fantasy.
Oh, absolutely. It's so easy to get caught up in the shoulds, and we end up feeling overwhelmed and just defeated before we even start.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm really excited to dive into the ideas from Casey Davis and her book, How to Keep House While Drowning.
What I find so fascinating about Davis's approach is that she really encourages us to like radically shift our perspective.
Yes.
Instead of viewing these tasks as like chores, or burdens, she invites us to see them as acts of care, like for ourselves, our families, and
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this radical shift in perspective. I mean, it's easy to just say think differently, but how do we actually put that into practice?
yeah, well, Davis points out that we often internalize a lot of societal pressures, like around cleanliness, self-care. We start to feel like if our homes aren't spotless or if we don't have that perfect morning routine, that it's like a reflection of our worth, like as
Oh,
individuals.
I've definitely been there. It's like that voice in your head saying, well, a truly put together person wouldn't have a sink full of dishes.
Yes, exactly. And that kind of thinking can be so detrimental to like our mental well-being,
Yeah.
it just creates this cycle of shame and guilt
Right.
that makes it even harder to take care of ourselves and our spaces.
So how do we break free from that cycle? I'm all ears for any advice that can silence that inner critic.
Well, Davis's approach really focuses on functionality and compassion. She encourages us to kind of let go of the need for perfection and instead just prioritize what truly matters, like for our well-being and the smooth running of our lives.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not about ignoring those tasks altogether, but about approaching them with a healthier mindset.
Right.
Okay. So what's the first step in putting this into action?
One of the first steps is to reframe how we view these tasks. So instead of seeing them as punishments or obligations, we can try to start seeing them as acts of self-respect and kindness.
I like that. That's a subtle shift, but it feels a lot more empowering already. Instead of, ooh, I have to do laundry, it's, I deserve to have clean clothes.
Yes, precisely. And that shift in perspective can make a huge difference. We're no longer motivated by guilt or fear of judgment, but by like a genuine desire to care for ourselves and create a more functional and enjoyable living environment.
So it's less about achieving some Instagram-worthy ideal of perfection
Yeah.
and more about creating a space that actually supports our well-being.
Exactly. And that's where Davis's concept of small strategies comes in. It's not about trying to overhaul your entire life, like overnight, or implement some kind of rigid system. It's just about finding small, manageable actions that you can integrate into your daily life to make progress over perfection.
Okay, I'm all about small wins and manageable steps. So what are some examples of these small strategies in action? Because I'm ready to ditch the overwhelm and actually feel like I'm making headway.
Well, one of my favorite examples is the 5 things rule for tidying up. So, like, instead of looking at a messy room and feeling paralyzed by the thought of cleaning the entire space, just pick up 5 things and put them away.
Wait, that's it? Just 5 things? That sounds almost too simple to be effective.
It might seem simple, but it's incredibly powerful. By breaking down a seemingly overwhelming task into those smaller, more manageable chunks, you create a sense of momentum and accomplishment without feeling like you have to, conquer the world all at once.
I can see how that would be a game changer.
Yeah,
Especially when you're feeling exhausted or just short on time, it takes the pressure off and makes those tasks feel a lot less daunting.
exactly. And you can apply that principle to other tasks too. Like, let's say you have a mountain of laundry piling up. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by the thought of tackling the entire mountain, you just focus on sorting one load or folding a few
You're
items.
making it sound almost enjoyable. Okay, maybe not enjoyable, but definitely less like a chore and more like something I could actually manage.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to make those tasks less daunting and more integrated into our lives so they don't feel like this looming burden that just sucks all the joy out of our day.
I have to say, I'm already feeling a little lighter just thinking about these small strategies in action. It's like a breath of fresh air compared to that all or nothing mentality that I often get stuck in.
That's the beauty of Davis's approach. It's realistic and compassionate, and most importantly, it actually works. It's not about becoming some superhuman cleaning machine or self-care guru. It's about finding what works for you and making small, sustainable changes that improve your overall well-being.
I love that. Small changes, sustainable progress, and a whole lot less guilt along the way. Sounds like a winning combination to me. But there's so much more to explore when it comes to Casey Davis's work and these small strategies.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we'll be doing in the next part of our deep dive. We'll delve even deeper into the practical side of things, sharing more specific examples of these strategies and just discussing how to kind of integrate them into a busy life. So stay tuned.
You won't want to miss it. We'll be right back after a quick.
Welcome back to Mighty Habits. Hope you're ready for round 2 of our deep dive into Casey Davis's How to Keep House While Drowning.
Yeah, we're in the thick of it now. We're exploring those brilliant strategies for managing self-care and those sometimes, well, pesky household tasks without turning into a frazzled mess.
Right. Yeah, and before the break, we were talking about those small strategies, those bite-sized actions that actually make a difference without requiring a complete life overhaul. We're talking progress over perfection, remember?
Right, exactly. It's about tackling those 5 things or closing the loop on a task so it doesn't come back to haunt you later, approaching it all with a healthy dose of self-compassion. But Davis goes even deeper, doesn't she?
She does. One concept that really resonated with me is what she calls functional hierarchy,
Okay.
which helps us prioritize tasks based on their actual impact on our lives.
That's where I always trip up. I spend so much time trying to make everything look perfect, I forget what truly matters. How does this functional hierarchy help us break free from that trap?
Yeah, it's all about asking yourself, what's the core function of this task? So instead of getting caught up in perfectly folded towels, you ask yourself, is having clean towels available the priority? Maybe folding can wait till later.
It's like choosing practicality over aesthetics,
Mhm.
which is such a hard shift for some of us. I know, myself included. It's so easy to fall into that perfectionism trap. I mean, have you found that a lot of people struggle with this?
Oh, absolutely. We're bombarded with images of perfectly organized pantries and, sparkling clean kitchens, and it just sets these really unrealistic expectations for most people. But remember, a functional home doesn't have to be picture perfect.
That's so liberating to hear. So in essence, we're shifting our focus from does it look good to does it serve its purpose?
Exactly. It's about asking what truly matters for the smooth running of my life, and the well-being of myself and my family. The rest can wait.
Okay, this is giving me permission to let go of so much unnecessary stress. Okay, another strategy that caught my eye was body doubling. Is this some kind of chore-related workout buddy system?
Not quite, but I love your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So, body doubling is actually a way to tap into our social nature to kind of boost motivation and productivity, especially when we're talking about tasks that we tend to procrastinate on.
So it's about finding someone to work alongside you, even if they're working on something totally different, like a virtual accountability partner.
Exactly. Even if you're not physically in the same space, just having someone else present, virtually or otherwise, can really help us stay focused and, on track.
It's funny how just knowing someone else is working alongside us can be such a motivator. And do you find that this works well for those tasks we tend to put off, those, uh, I don't know, the things we really dread?
It can be really effective. I mean, think about it. We often procrastinate on tasks that just feel isolating or overwhelming.
Right.
But having that sense of shared effort can make a huge difference.
This makes me think about how many of us are working from home these days. I mean, body doubling could be a fantastic way to um, combat those feelings of isolation and create a sense of virtual camaraderie.
That's a great point. And technology makes it so easy, right, to connect with others. There are online communities and even apps that are specifically designed for body doubling, whether you're tackling household chores or work projects or even, creative pursuits.
I love how Davis's approach, it just seamlessly blends practicality with her innate social needs.
Yeah.
It's like she's acknowledging that well, we're not meant to do everything in isolation. We thrive on that connection, that support.
Right. And speaking of support, Davis also really emphasizes the importance of actually seeking help when we need it, whether it's, from family or friends or even professionals. We often try to do it all ourselves.
Right.
But there's no shame in reaching out for a helping hand.
I think that's especially important when it comes to self-care. We often put so much pressure on ourselves to handle everything perfectly. But sometimes self-care means recognizing that we need to delegate or ask for support.
Absolutely. And delegation, I mean, it doesn't just apply to those, household tasks. Maybe it's booking a babysitter to get some, much needed alone time, or even hiring a cleaning service every once in a while to just free up your mental space.
Right.
It's about prioritizing your well-being, recognizing that you deserve that support.
It's like giving yourself permission to invest in your own well-being without feeling guilty or like you're, somehow failing.
Exactly. Remember, self-care isn't selfish. It's essential. When we take care of ourselves, we're better equipped to handle everything else life throws our way.
It's like the classic airplane oxygen mask
Yeah.
analogy, right?
Right.
You got to put on your own mask first before you can help others.
Perfect analogy. And it brings us back to Davis's central message that really resonates throughout her work. We deserve care.
Yes. We all deserve care, regardless of, how productive we are, how tidy our homes are, or even how much we have on our plates. It's a basic human need, and it shouldn't be something we feel guilty or ashamed about.
Exactly. And when we truly embrace this mindset, we can start to view self-care and those often dreaded household tasks, not as burdens, but as opportunities to nourish ourselves and just create a more supportive and loving environment.
Yeah, what I appreciate most about Davis's approach is that it's not about striving for some unattainable ideal. It's about making choices that align with our values and, really support our overall well-being, one small step at a time.
It's about creating a life that feels good to live in, both physically and mentally. And we've covered a lot of ground, but we're not done yet. There's even more to unpack in the final part of our deep dive, where we'll get even more specific and actionable with Davis's strategies.
That's right. We'll be back after a quick. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Casey Davis's How to Keep House While Drowning. It's been really interesting exploring these brilliant strategies for managing self-care and those often dreaded household tasks, even when life feels like it's like throwing everything at you at once.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Davis's approach is just so refreshing and empowering, giving us permission to like let go of that perfectionism and embrace a more compassionate and sustainable way of life. And I think, this last part is where it all kind of comes together.
Absolutely. We've talked about reframing those tasks as acts of self-care and, embracing those small strategies and prioritizing functionality over aesthetics. But I'm ready for some more, nitty-gritty, actionable advice.
Yeah.
What specific strategies can our listeners take away and implement right away?
Well, one of my favorites for tackling visual clutter is what Davis calls the trash bag tango. It's so simple, but it's incredibly effective.
Okay, that name has me intrigued. So I'm picturing myself waltzing around the house with a trash bag. Tell me more.
You got the right idea. So you grab a trash bag, you set a timer for just 10 minutes, and you just move through your space. And you toss anything that's actual trash, like junk mail, empty containers, things you don't need.
So it's like a quick sweep to clear out the obvious clutter
Yeah.
without getting bogged down in, I don't know, decision fatigue.
Exactly. And the timer is key because it prevents you from overthinking or getting sidetracked. You're just focusing on getting rid of the easy stuff.
I can see how that would, create a sense of momentum and make the task feel less daunting. It's a small win, but sometimes those small wins are all we need to get the ball rolling.
Exactly. And if you have more time and energy, you can always do another round, this time focusing on items you can donate or recycle.
That's a great point. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach. You can tailor it to your energy levels and your available time. It's about working with yourself, not against yourself.
Right. Now, another strategy I found really helpful, especially when facing a long list of tasks, is Davis's concept of batch working.
Batch working, is that like cooking in bulk but for chores?
You could say that it's about grouping similar tasks together just to maximize efficiency and avoid constantly switching gears.
So instead of jumping between, laundry, dishes, and tidying, I dedicate a specific time block to each category.
Exactly. It streamlines the process, it reduces mental clutter, and can even help you get into like a flow state where those tasks feel less tedious.
It makes so much sense. It's like creating a mini assembly line for your chores.
And speaking of creating, efficient routines, Davis also talks about the power of habit stacking, which is
Uh,
brilliant for building consistency.
Habit stacking. I'm picturing like a tower of good habits, like precariously balanced. Oh, maybe not the best visual, but I'm curious. What does it entail?
Think of it as linking a new habit you want to create with an existing habit that's already, firmly established in your routine.
So it's like piggybacking on an existing habits, like momentum to make the new one stick.
Exactly. So let's say you want to start making your bed every morning, but you often forget or feel rushed. You could habit stack by linking it to something you already do consistently, like brushing your teeth. Every time you finish brushing, you immediately make your bed.
It's so simple, yet so clever. It's like using your existing routines as like a springboard for new habits. I can definitely see how that would increase your chances of success.
And over time, the new habit just becomes, so integrated into your routine, it feels almost automatic.
You know what strikes me about all of Davis's strategies is that they're not just about like ticking boxes on a to-do list. They're about creating systems and routines that support our well-being in the long run.
Absolutely. It's about, shifting our mindset from viewing these tasks as burdens to seeing them as acts of self-care and just investments in our overall quality of life.
And it's about recognizing that we're all human. We don't have to do all perfectly. In fact, sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves is just let go of that need for perfection.
Exactly. Davis encourages us to give ourselves grace and to embrace imperfection. It's okay if things aren't always spotless or if we need to ask for help.
That's such a powerful message, especially in a culture that often glorifies, busyness and perfection.
It's a reminder that self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. And it doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. Even those small intentional acts of kindness towards ourselves can make a big difference.
So after this deep dive into Casey Davis's work, what's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with?
I hope they feel empowered to ditch the pressure to be perfect and embrace a more compassionate and realistic approach to self-care and those often dreaded household tasks.
And to remember that they deserve care, regardless of their circumstances or, how much they have on their plate.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you, one small strategy at a time.
And if you are feeling overwhelmed by the demands of daily life, I highly recommend checking out Casey Davis's book, How to Keep House While Drowning. It's full of practical wisdom and compassionate advice that can truly help you create a more manageable and fulfilling life.
And for those of you who enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to subscribe to Mighty Habits for more explorations of fascinating ideas and helpful tips for living a better life.
We'll be back soon with another thought-provoking episode. Until then, keep those habits mighty.